watch us, right? You don't just have to listen to us. Video has not killed the radio star quite yet. Talk Radio is now on your TV, so download the Talk Radio TV app or go to talkradio.tv for details on how to watch. It's political punch-up time now, though, people, and we're veering away from the coffee sneezy stuff. And in fact, we're going to be talking about NHS staff and whether or not they deserve a pay rise. And I want your views on this. Clearly, there'll be people out there going, well, hang on a minute, come on, they save lives, for goodness sake. You know, they've just got us through a pandemic. We went outside and clapped for them, didn't we, at one point? The least we could do is give them a bit more dosh. However, there are other people that say, actually, hang on a minute, they do always seem to have the handout. The NHS does appear to be overwhelmed, almost kind of by its own making, in the sense of them cancelling a lot of appointments, etc., etc., etc. Actually, how good is the NHS? Do the people in there really deserve a pay rise? And this is why we're doing a debate. So, on one side of it, we've got Mel Kerr, senior staff nurse in Lincolnshire, and we've also got on the other side Harry Phone, grassroots campaign manager at the Taxpayers Alliance. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. Now, people should know our procedure by now. If you don't, I'll tell you, you each get 60 seconds uninterrupted before the deeply insensitive boxing bell cuts you off and we have a wider debate. So, let's get cracking first and foremost with you, please, Mel Kerr, senior staff nurse in Lincolnshire. Do NHS staff deserve a pay rise?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just a pay rise, it's a true recognition and a restorative pay rise that's going to allow us to get back on the playing field when it comes to real-time pay cuts that we've faced over the last decade. We've seen up to 20% pay cut in real terms. We also have to be able to effectively recruit and retain our staff within the NHS and all healthcare sectors, because ultimately all it's going to have is a direct impact on our patient safety, which isn't something that we can allow to happen. We see it impact our staff well-being every single day, and it's only getting worse. This pandemic has obviously had an impact, but this was happening pre-pandemic as well. It's not just the pandemic that's made things so difficult to handle in terms of managing patients safely and effectively. And as healthcare professionals, we have a duty of care to provide safe and effective care to our patients. And at the moment, we're struggling to, and in some cases are not being able to do that because we don't have the staff.
That's the one. All right, time's up. Good points. We'll get back to them. Don't worry. Harry Phone, your time starts now, my good man. Should the NHS staff receive a pay rise?
Thank you, Patrick. Well, very interesting to hear what Mel's got to say there. Yet again, we're seeing more demands on taxpayers' cash. There's a big debate around social care at the moment and how we fund the budget gap in that. But I think the big question that's not being asked is, where's the government going to get the money from in the first place? You know, we're now at a stage with the economy that we've got £2 trillion in debt. The last time we had a budget surplus was about 20 years ago. The government has got all sorts of spending commitments, from HS2 to its levelling up and build back better agenda. They don't seem particularly keen on making savings. They always seem keen to dip into taxpayers' pockets. So I guess the question really for the Chancellor is not necessarily NHS staff deserve the pay rise or not, but where on earth is he going to find the money to pay for it?
Oh, well within your 60 seconds, but okay, good points. Thank you very much. Mel, I'm just going to throw it back to you, please. I think a lot of people might be quite intrigued as to well, it's not just nurses, but it just seems to be NHS staff in general. So I'm assuming that would include, your doctors towards the top end of the pay scale as well. But as a nurse, what is a nurse on in the UK, in England?
Well, on average pay, for myself, I am sort of on a standard pay as a band 5 staff nurse, and I have a pay of £30,000. Now, whilst that might seem like a reasonable pay, and I'm not denying that it isn't a reasonable pay, when you look at what the skill and the responsibility that we face as nurses, and I was, again, like you say rightly, this isn't just about nurses, this is all healthcare staff. Every single day, month, year that we work in our settings, we have an increase in responsibilities, and I just don't feel that the pay.
Do you not think that the doctors towards the top end could go, all right, you know what, we're already on a decent wage, actually. The kids probably go to private school. I reckon they all drive in the BMWs, don't they? And I do stand by this. I think most doctors go into it for the money. I've got a lot of friends who are doctors, and at no point when I was growing up did they ever express a deep-seated love of human life. Instead, they actually quite liked the comfortability of it. Do you not think they could move to one side and allow people like nurses towards the lower end of the NHS pay scale to take that pay rise instead?
But it's those doctors that face even more responsibility when they're right at the top of that pay band. So you're talking consultant level is probably what I think you're hinting at there. You know, the responsibility they face isn't just for single individual patients. You're talking about full departments of patients, specialities of patients. So they have a huge clinical responsibility, which is part of the reason why their pay reflects that. But actually, I'm not just talking about the topper bands here. It's actually the staff that are on the lower ends of the bands that are really impacted on this and have faced the increase in the significant pay cuts, the real-term pay cuts that we've seen over the last 10 years. Okay. They're the ones that are impacted the most.
Harry, I'll just throw over to you now. Look, if we were a fair society that did the right thing, it's a no-brainer that we have to give our nurses, heroic nurses, and some people as well towards the higher end, potentially in the NHS as well, a little bit of extra wonga.
Look, we'd all love more money in our jobs, and as I say, I appreciate that the NHS staff and nurses and doctors have been under tremendous pressure for the last 15 months or so. But unfortunately, there isn't a magic money tree, and demands of pay increases of 12.5% seem completely unrealistic. As I say, even 3%. Deserved or not, is going to be very difficult for the government to find the cash on. I mean, we've had borrowing of about £800 billion this year. As I say, £2 trillion in debt. In fact, when you actually look at what the real national debt is, that's closer to £10 trillion when you factor in the unfunded liabilities. The government seems to believe that the answer to its spending problems is to come after us taxpayers for yet more money. At the time when taxpayers, particularly who work in the private sector, are struggling. Many have been on furlough or lost jobs as a result of the pandemic. So it really does come down to this question of where is the money going to come from? And to date, I haven't heard any satisfactory answers other than, well, I guess we're probably going to borrow it, which will further worsen our economic situation.
Okay, Mel, just going to throw back to you now. Look, I suppose, if really what is happening here is that the unions have said no to as we understand it anyway, apparently the unions have said no to this 3% pay rise which was offered. They want more. Well, surely if you guys wanted the money that badly or needed it that badly, you'd be ripping the government's hand off, wouldn't you?
I want to make this absolutely clear that this isn't just about money, okay? I have not gone into nursing for the money. I haven't gone into it for that. I've gone into it to care for my patients, and that is my absolute priority here. But at the moment, I cannot care effectively and safely for my patients because there simply isn't the staff and the resource to do so. The fact that we face really unsafe staff to patient ratios, sometimes staff can be looking up to 15 patients on their own, which really is above and beyond the current guidance. NICE guidance says that is completely unacceptable. And I hear what you're saying in terms of the financial reasonability of being able to afford this. But my question to you is, can we afford not to do this? We are seeing an increase in patient safety issues just across the years. And I hear what you're saying about the pandemic. This isn't just a pandemic problem. This is a chronic problem within the NHS and all healthcare settings. Can we afford not to invest in our healthcare settings now? Because ultimately it's just going to crash and burn otherwise.
Just very quickly now for the last words, Harry, I suppose. What do you want then? Should we just privatise the NHS?
Not saying that at all. I think definitely some reform would be a good start. We know there is a lot of wasteful spending in the public sector, and I think this maybe gets to the crux of the problem is that we can't just keep going and borrowing money, and we've had so much money going to furlough and things like that. So I think if the Chancellor does want to give NHS staff a 3% pay rise, he's got to make savings elsewhere to make that affordable, for taxpayers. And I absolutely take Mel's point about, avoiding pending disasters. But no easy answers and tough times ahead for the Chancellor, I think.
Both of you, thank you very much. Really robust stuff, that, for our political punch-up. Mel Kerr, their senior staff nurse in Lincolnshire, and Harry Fone, grassroots campaign manager at Taxpayers Alliance. That story, should nurses get the pay rise? Well, NHS staff, actually, not just nurses. Should they get a pay rise? Lots of you, frankly, are saying no on Twitter. So that's the Talk Radio listeners' view, apparently, on that. But, where's the money going to